You know that feeling, right? Your phone just buzzing constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And then you add in all the different chat apps, Slack over here, Google Chat there, maybe Discord, Telegram.
It gets overwhelming fast, especially with automated updates flying everywhere.
Exactly. So today we're diving into a tool that might just help cut through all that noise. It's called Chatz.
Right. We've been looking into Chatz. It's open source, and its main goal is pretty clear. Unify all those automated notifications from different platforms.
Sort of bring them all under one roof.
Yeah, think of it like trying to manage the chaos, get everything streamlined so you only see the important stuff in, well, maybe not one place, but through one tool.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. Really get under the hood of Chatz. We've got the GitHub repo here. That's our main source.
And some extra info that helps explain things like threading, how it keeps conversations together.
Right. We want to figure out not just what it is, but, why it might actually be useful for someone drowning in automated messages.
Makes sense.
So let's start there. At its core, what does Chatz actually do?
Okay, so Chatz is basically an open source app. Its main job is sending messages, specifically notifications, to quite a few of the big communication platforms people use every day.
Which ones are we talking about?
The main ones you'd expect: Google Chat, Slack, Discord, and Telegram.
Okay, so instead of me setting up like 5 different ways to get automated alerts.
Exactly. Chats can act as that central point, that kind of dispatcher.
And what kind of automated things is it good for?
Well, the use cases are pretty broad. Think about getting a ping when a background job finishes.
Okay.
Or, really important, getting alerts if a system has an error or its status changes suddenly.
Right. Critical alerts.
Yeah. And for developers, it's useful for CI/CD pipeline updates.
Yeah.
Build, finish, deployment succeeded, that kind of thing.
So if some script I'm running finishes, or maybe a server hiccups, Chatz could push that info straight into, say, a specific Slack channel?
Absolutely. That's exactly the idea. And they even have a specific GitHub action ready to go, which makes that CI/CD integration pretty smooth.
Ah, okay,
The
good.
whole point is just streamlining things, getting those notifications organized instead of scattered everywhere.
That makes a ton of sense. Less jumping between apps, trying to figure out what's going on. Now, you listed the main chat apps. Are those the only ones it supports?
So those are the primary ones, yeah. Slack, Google Chat, Telegram, Discord. They call these providers.
They're providers, okay.
But what's quite interesting is it also supports Redis and SMTP as providers.
Redis and SMTP. Wait, so not just chat apps.
Right. It broadens the scope quite a bit. With Redis, chats can publish a message to a Redis channel.
Which other applications could then pick up, like a pub sub thing?
Exactly, like a little message board.
Yeah.
And SMTP, well, that's just standard email. So chats can send notifications straight to an email inbox too.
Wow. Okay, so it's pretty versatile then. Chat, email, even Redis.
Yeah, covers a lot of ground. And the documentation on GitHub apparently details how to set up each one.
Good to know. All right, so we know what it is, who it talks to. How do you actually, get it installed? Is it complicated?
Well, for macOS users, especially if you're already using Homebrew, it's actually pretty painless.
Okay.
You just run 2 commands in your terminal. First, brew tap, tech thinker tap, then brew install chats. And that should be it.
That does sound easy for Mac users. What about Linux or
Yeah.
Windows or Macs without Homebrew?
For those, the usual route is downloading a pre-built file, an executable, directly from the GitHub releases page.
Okay, find the right file for your system.
Right. You typically use a tool like curl to download it. Then on Linux and macOS, you need to make it executable.
The chmod command?
Yeah, chmod plus xchats.
Yep.
And then you probably want to move that file somewhere in your system's path, like us localbin, so you can just type chats from anywhere.
Gotcha. And for Windows?
Similar download process with curl, or just using your browser, but the file will end in .exe. You'd likely want to add its location to your system's path environment variable too. The GitHub releases page has the specific download URLs for each version, OS, and architecture, using something called tag name to represent the version.
Okay, so a few command line steps usually, but manageable. Once it's installed, how do you tell it where to send things? Your Slack token, your webhook URL. That's configuration, right?
Exactly. Chats looks for a configuration file. By default, it's .chats.ini in your home directory.
.chats.ini.
Inside that file, you set up different profiles.
Profile. So you could have one for work stuff and one for personal project alerts.
Precisely. You get a default profile automatically, but you can add others, name them whatever makes sense, like work alerts or dev server.
And inside those profiles, you put the connection details.
Yep, you specify the provider, I mean, Slack, Google Chat, Telegram, Discord, Redis, or SMTP, and then the specific credentials needed for that provider.
Can you give us a quick rundown, like what does Slack need versus Google Chat?
Sure. For Slack, it's usually a token and the channelid.
Okay.
Google Chat uses a webhook URL.
Right, you generate that in Google Chat itself.
Yep. Telegram needs a bot token and the chatted. Discord also uses a webhook URL.
Similar to Google Chat, then.
Kind of, yeah. And for Redis, it's the connection URL for your Redis server and the channelid to publish to.
Okay. And SMTP for email. That sounds like it might have more settings.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you quite a bit of control there. You need the SMTP host and SMTP port.
Standard stuff.
Right. Then you specify if you need TLS using SMTP USSLs true or start hulls with SMTP startles true.
So it handles secure connections.
Yes. And of course, the SMTP use error and SMTP password if your server needs authentication. Plus the SMTP subject line for the email, the SMTP from address, and the SMTPTO recipient.
Lots of options there. You mentioned TLS and startls ports.
Yeah, commonly port 465 for TLS and 587 for startls. Using the unencrypted port 25 isn't really recommended these days.
Good point. Now, what if someone doesn't want to use that chatz.ini file, maybe for scripting or something? Isn't there another way? Environment variable.
Yes, that's the other option. You can tell Chatz to pull its configuration from system environment variables instead.
How does that work?
You use the from n flag or just E when you run the Chatz command.
Okay.
And the environment variable names match the keys in the ini file.
Oh.
So instead of putting provider Slack in the file, you'd export provider Slack in your terminal.
And then Chatz would look for Slack token and Slack channeled as environment variables too.
Exactly. It maps directly. Really handy for CI/CD environments or any way you manage secrets via environment variables.
Cool. That's flexible. Okay, so installed, configured. How do you actually send a message?
The simplest way, using your default profile, is just Chatz followed by your message in quotes.
Like Chatz, job done.
Yep. Chatz, system is healthy, something like that.
And if I wanted to use that work alerts profile I set up?
Then you add the profile flag. So it'd be Chatz profile work alerts, warning, disk space, low.
Easy enough. Now, those notes mentioned threading. How does that work? Like replying to a specific Slack message?
Right. For platforms that support threads, like Slack or Discord, Chatz can send replies into an existing thread.
Oh.
You use the Lampa flag, followed by the thread's unique ID. It often looks like a long number, sort of a timestamp.
So Chatz ant t some long ad.
Exactly. Chatz ant 12345678890. Got it, looking into it. Something like that, using your default profile, or add profile if needed.
Okay, but how do you get that thread ID in the first place?
Good question. That's where the odd flag comes in. It stands for output.
Output.
Yeah. When you send your first message, the one that starts the thread, you add O, like Chatz O deployment started.
And what does that do?
It makes Chatz print the raw response it gets back from the platform, like Slack or Discord. Buried in that response text is usually the ID of the message or thread that just got created.
I see. So you run it with O, grab the ID from the output,
Copy that ID.
and then use it with @t for all your follow-up messages in that thread.
Exactly. That's how you keep the related notifications neatly grouped together.
Clever. And if I forget all these flags, is there a help command?
Yep. Standard practice, just run Chatz help. It'll list all the commands and options.
Great. Okay, we've covered a lot, what it is, setup, usage. Let's quickly peek behind the curtain. What about the project itself?
Well, it's open source under the MIT license, which is pretty permissive.
Good. Active.
Looking at GitHub, as of May 23rd, 2025, it had 3 stars and 3 forks. So maybe still growing its user base.
Okay. Any recent activity?
Yeah, the latest release, version 1.2.1, was actually on May 23rd, 2025. It seems there have been 7 releases in total up to that point.
So it is being maintained. Who's working on it?
The main contributor listed is Marusif. There's also GitHub Actions Bot, which is likely just for automation.
And it's written in Go, mostly.
Primarily, yeah. The repo shows about 90.7% Go code. The rest is mostly Makefile stuff for building it.
Interesting. Okay, so let's wrap this up. What's the big takeaway here? Why should someone listening consider using Chatz?
I think the core benefit is really that unification. Having one tool, one way to send automated notifications to all the different places you need them to go.
Instead of juggling 5 different APIs or setups.
Exactly. Saves time, reduces complexity. Especially valuable if you're in development or sysadmin work or dealing with those CI/CD pipelines we talked about. It just streamlines that whole communication flow.
Right, taming the notification beast, basically. And being open source with different install and configuration options means it's pretty adaptable, too.
For sure. Command line, config files, environment variables, it fits into different workflows.
So for you listening, maybe think about it.
Hmm.
How much time or just mental energy do you spend chasing notifications across Slack, email, Discord, whatever else?
Mhm.
Could centralizing that flow with something like chats actually make your life easier, help you stay informed without the constant interruptions?
It's definitely worth exploring, I think. Check out the GitHub repository, see if it fits a need you have.
Yeah, might be a simple way to simplify things. Well, that's our deep dive into Chalice. Thanks for joining us.